this one? So this is a story. So we're back to Boccaccio. I thought, do you know, what haven't we had for a while? We've had Elevenses. Remember them? Elevenses. So the saints that have had their heads chopped off and then carry on, sort of pick their heads up and the heads keep talking. Elevenses. I'm sure you all remembered that. And we've had a bit of gore and so on. And I thought, no, we need a bit of a story this time. And so this is a story from Boccaccio's Decameron, which, if you recall, was written after the Black Death. So the big Black Death in the middle of the 14th century, and the premise is that 10 Florentines go and live outside of Florence in a villa to escape the Black Death, and they all have to tell stories. And so this is one of them, and it's, as ever, it's an interesting story. I've got 2 images to show you. And the scene here actually comes in kind of partway through the story. So, once upon a time, there was a doctor called Mazzio, and in fact the whole story is called Mazzio the Doctor, but he plays a key role, certainly, but he's not really the focus of this story. The focus would be Ruggieri the rogue, who is the guy, I was going to call him a gentleman, but he wasn't so much a gentleman. He's in green, who is lying on the bed with a lady who is over on the right-hand side, all dressed in red, and the lady's maid, who is wearing the sort of the blue. She's on the left with the sort of turn up. So the lady is married to the doctor, Mazzio, but he's quite a lot older than she is. And he adores her, he showers her with gifts, he's very lovely to her, but there's one thing missing in her life, and I think you can maybe guess what it is, because she scouts around and she thinks, aha, Ruggieri is the man who is going to provide this missing part of my world. I think we all know what he was going to provide. Okay, so she gets the maid to sort of, try and be aware of when they can maybe, have a liaison. And the doctor has to go out, her husband has to go out on a home visit, and so this is the perfect time. But the doctor has, previous to that, has had to had to attend to a man who had, these stories are very involved. I do actually kind of skim the surface of them a little bit, but even so, you kind of need to know this, maybe. So the doctor has had to go and deal with a man with gangrene, and he's ordered, and he has to amputate his leg, and so he's ordered a drug that will put this poor guy under whilst he amputates the leg. So he's got the drug has arrived, he's left it on the side, he has to go and attend to another patient, and so we've got this scenario where he's out of the house, the drug is on the sideboard or wherever it is. And do they have sideboards? And I don't know. Yeah, of course they had sideboards in the 14th century. My God, they weren't living in caves, were they? Thinking about. And so Ruggieri is invited to the house, and the lady is all very excited, and she's upstairs getting ready. Ruggieri, being a bit of a rogue, is kind of, poking around the house. He sees this tincture or this drug or whatever it is on the sideboard, and he thinks, oh, I'm gonna have a bit of that, and he drinks it. He wasn't very well brought up. I mean, that's just rude, isn't it? Apart from the fact that obviously he didn't know what he was drinking, because he is then, out for the count. And he is so deeply, deeply drugged that the lady and her maid think, oh my word, he's dead. And so this is the scene here. They managed to get him. I was thinking that it was a bed, but maybe it's not. I think it's a bed. Let's say it's a bed. So they managed to get him onto this bed, and I like this because, look, so the lady is, if you notice, she's kind of holding his nose or doing something over his nose and mouth. So presumably she is wondering whether or not he's still breathing. The maid, on the other hand, seems to be feeling something else. So that's the maid's way of finding out whether he's still alive or not. But he's so very, very drugged that they think he is actually dead. So then what do? Well, the maid, as ever, has an idea because she has seen out in their street that the local carpenter has created a huge chest, and this chest has made a huge chest, and this chest is outside his house. It's perfect for popping a body into. So here we are. They're not outside here. Obviously, it was just too much for the 15th century artists to cope with. These are in an illustrated manuscript of the Decameron from the 15th century. It's French. So anyway, but the point is that they put this guy in this chest. And because they think he's dead, they don't know what else to do. So they think, oh, we'll put him in a chest and absolve ourselves of any responsibility. So story doesn't end there, because along their street are two chaps that have just moved in, two chaps with their wives who have just moved in to a house down the street. They see this chest, it's in the street. The carpenter's clearly a little bit careless, and they think, oh, fantastic, free furniture. So they pick it up and they're thinking, wow, it's really heavy as well. It must be really well made. And they take it and they put it outside their wife's bedroom. I don't know why their wives are both in the same bedroom. The story doesn't really go into that. As I say, it's a lot of detail, but not that much. Whereupon, of course, a few hours have gone by and Ruggieri, the rogue, wakes up and he has no idea where he is, and in his kind of confusion he tips over the chest. The ladies have no idea, obviously, that there's a man inside the chest, and so they think that they are being burgled, so they scream and there's there's a pandemonium in the house, and the upshot is that Ruggieri is arrested, and he goes up in front of the judge, and he is tortured, the story says, and he's sentenced to be hung or hanged. So the lady then hears of this. Obviously, it's all in the news, and she thinks, well, hang on a minute, how can that possibly be? He was dead. How can he be up to for the death sentence again? He's already died once. Then all the pieces start to fall together. She learns from her husband that he's lost this potion, that's very strange. And then, other people are talking about this chest that's been stolen from the street. And she's like, oh, okay. So she understands what's happened. So she thinks, well, I still didn't really get what I wanted from Ruggieri. So, I don't really want him to die. He was the best candidate for me, quite frankly. So she concocts a story with the maid. That basically they tell the truth of the story, apart from, of course, the maid is the fool guy, the fool woman, and they have to pretend that in fact Ruggieri was in their home, not for the lady but for the maid. Poor maid. It does go on to say that the maid then had or enticed the judge further. And I think we know what that means, to sort of sway things their way. And so the upshot of the story is that the guys that took the chest or the trunk got a fine, and quite a hefty fine. And Ruggieri got a slap on the wrist, and he was able then to continue or to start his relationship with the lady, who was very happy. And as for the maid, I don't know whether she and the judge had a happy ever after. I suspect not, but thank goodness for having a maid like that on your side. That's what I say. So that is the concise story of Mazzio the Doctor from Boccaccio's Decameron, and apparently it's taken from some kind of Buddhist tale. I I think maybe I might have missed the point somewhere if it was a Buddhist tale. There must be some kind of twist or some nuance or something that I just wasn't picking up. I don't know. So, since today we are not on the subject of slufaphores, we are on the subject of poison. We're going to move on to this little gem. No, I'm not talking about Miriam Margolyes. I'm talking about the Mandrake. The Mandrake. Terrifying, terrifying plant. Everybody very, very frightened of the Mandrake. Why are they frightened of the Mandrake? Because when you pull the Mandrake from the ground, quite possibly you can die. Not great. And so the reason that this whole legend has grown up surrounding the Mandrake is because, if you take a look, so this is a Mandrake from the ground, they sort of look quite often anthropomorphic. And of course, back in medieval times, if something looked like a human or looked like it had human qualities, then all sorts of stories could be told about it and sort of woven into its I was going to say its history, but it's it is at the end of the day a root, but that didn't stop people. So the story of the Mandrake, so this comes from 13th century German medical journal. So the story of the Mandrake is that there are several legends surrounding the Mandrake actually, but this one is particularly fascinating. So and it's told very beautifully in this image. So what do we have here? So we have a man kind of standing and with a very beautiful headdress on. So he is representative of the Mandrake, and then he is also apparently lying on the ground, or there's a sort of a cardboard cutout of him. Looks like lying on the ground, and there are a couple of guys poking him with spears, and there's a guy in the back to the right hand side with a dog, and actually if you look down to the front left corner there is also a dead dog down there as well. How are we putting all this together? And you might also want to just have a closer look. I don't have a close-up, but you might also want to have a closer look at the body of the Mandrake. First of all, I thought that he had an extraordinary cavity in his stomach, and this is all to do with his musculature or something. This was to do with the artist showing that he knows what the human body looks like, or she, probably he. But it's not. Look what it is. He's got a very big appendage, and that is part of the legend. So the legend is, or one of the legends is that the Mandrake grows from the dripping fat, I don't quite know how that works, but also the blood and the sperm of a hanged man. So this man has been hung, and so I'm thinking that this cardboard cutout on the ground is his dead body, but of course this Mandrake has been created some kind of alchemy under the ground with his sperm and his blood and his fat, and it has grown up, and so therefore quite unsurprisingly when this happens, if you've managed to grow yourself, you just want to stay underground and quite happy and remain growing. So that's how the Mandrake is formed. Obviously, oh sorry, I don't know whether you could hear that. It was a mighty great crash upstairs, but the ceiling is still up, so it's fine. Yeah, so I've lost my thread now. What was I on about? Yeah, so the reason that you don't want to pull up a Mandrake from the ground is because, it's this kind of little human, and it's, and it might be a naughty human if it's, been killed by hanging. And what happens is when you pull it from the ground, it makes an almighty great screaming sound, like a sound that is so horrible that no mortal can hear the scream without dying. So you can't hear this scream and survive. That is how bad it is. You think the sirens were bad? No, the Mandrake scream, much worse. So this is where the dog comes in, because people in medieval times thought, well, okay, you know, we do want to pull up these roots because they were used for medicinal purposes, you know, but we don't really want to die in the process because that would kind of defeat the object. So the solution is get a dog. Bit mean to the dog. So what you do is you tie the leash, or sometimes even the tail of the dog. I'm so sorry, animal lovers, this is not my idea. To the sort of around the mandrake root, the bit that's above the ground that you can get to, and you get a doggy treat and you throw the doggy treat not in the direction of the mandrake, you throw it as far away as possible, and so then the dog is very excited and runs after the treat, and as he's running after the treat, pulls up the mandrake root, and you of course are with earplugs and very far away because you know, the dog probably won't survive, and you certainly wouldn't survive if you were anywhere near it. So that's what this guy over on the right hand side is doing. There's actually another image I've got. So this is the dog doing its worst, or the mandrake, I should say, doing its worst, or the owner of the dog doing his worst or her worst, for the yes, to try and pull the mandrake out of the ground. Why did people want mandrakes so much? Well, because they were, oh, by the way, back here, so this is the dead dog then, down on the left. So this is the whole mandrake saga in just one fantastic image. I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do with these spears, but there we go. So why did people want mandrakes? Well, they were quite potent. I mean, you know, you can see how potent this guy is. So they were supposed to be aphrodisiacs. They were supposed to promote fertility. If you have a small root, then potentially that could look like a little bitty baby, and so women would sleep with them under their pillows, and I kid you not, they actually did. Also, it could be used for kind of more perhaps logical purposes, mixed up with ginger, and you would put it topically, so you wouldn't swallow it, over not wounds but arthritis. It's part of the deadly nightshade family, actually. So also, you know, you can maybe ingest a little bit, but not very much, because it would kill you. But it's hallucinogenic, so all sorts of fun. So yes, so it was used for things, but the myth of the mandrake is far more interesting than its uses. And so I just want to show you this as a finish, which is in the Welcome collection, and this is a mandrake root, but I think it must have been carved. The date on it is a little bit confusing. It says 1501 to 1700, and I don't think that's the catalogue number, because I did wonder. And it's from the British Isles somewhere, but I think it's been carved. But what does it remind you of? And I don't know whether it was, well, it can't have been carved for this purpose, because the thing that it reminds me of was only created in the 19th century, so it reminded me of this. No? Yes? So this is Saturn devouring his sun. We looked at, God, many moons ago. It was one of the black paintings that he drew on his dining room wall. How lovely. Somewhere between 1820 and 1823. But yeah, look, there you go. That. If it's carved, it's probably only lightly carved. It might have just been enhanced, I think, maybe, to that. There we go. And on that note, I'm going to turn those back off. I'm going to turn commenting on. And there you go. So don't be eating mandrake, is the moral of this story. If there was a moral. But if someone could actually tell me why the Buddhists, why the whole story of Masio, the doctor, and Ruggieri, and the the very game made, and the lady, why that is a Buddhist story. I would be really, really interested to know. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. I loved it. Thank you very much. That's really kind of you. So, I'm in the National Gallery this afternoon, which is very exciting. I've got a private tour, first time for months and months and months. So that's going to be good. If my flat is still in one piece, that would be good. Oh, hi Caroline. Thank you for joining. And then we've got Divas coming up on the 8th of October, a virtual Divas tour. And then the week after, I think it's zooming in on Zeus, and then we've got Wicked Women, and then I've got a Halloween tour. So keep your eyes open for the Halloween tour, which is on Thursday the 29th. So if you like Goya and Saturn devouring his son, then maybe the Halloween tour might be for you. Have a great day, everybody, and I will see you next week. I was going to say if not before, but I might see you before. Who knows? That would be nice, wouldn't it? But yes, have a good day, and thank you for joining. Take care. Bye. Bye.